Good morning, this is Brian Whitten and ETR. How are you all today? I've just made another video here. It's going to be slightly different and it's also going to be very short. I did want to touch on some of the subject matter we've discussed till this point. On the screen at the moment you have a rock. I collected this rock out of the river here in the Manning River not so long back actually. Was just walking along the side of the river and found this and thought I'll pick that up, that looks very interesting, and I've left it on the screen for you and you can observe what you see on it. I'll come back and discuss what I see on it, but it in actual fact has got the record and history of the evolution of the Caucasians. Okay, that's what's written on that rock, starting from very early point in time. This early in actual fact. The spiked being you see riding this dinosaur is in actual fact at the most right side of the rock. You see his pointed face or his pointed skull going up on the most right side of the rock, so it's actually telling us about the evolution of the white man. So this video then is confirmation of a few things and straightening up of one or two other things. I have said to you that the 876.9 people going backwards here, you don't go backwards in time, you're just going to get moved to other star systems. I have said that some of you may stand on planets spinning in the right direction so they save your souls, when in reality that won't be what happens. What's going to happen is those of you go back, the very best outcome for any of you will be to start the very cycle we are finishing. In other words, you will stand on a planet that's exactly the same as this one, and you will be creating a new civilization in a world that is bare of anything, no shops, no roads, no power. You will go back and you will restart a civilization just like ours was started 2400 years ago, and that is the best outcome. So I make this video more for the people that are left on Earth. Okay, we're going to get some very difficult lessons. Okay, I personally have had them on the way through. I think if had I not have had them, I probably wouldn't got to the end of the story. And the people that would have made sure I was not here to tell the end of that story were in actual fact people very close to me. I would go as far as saying my family. Okay, that is the situation. I've spoken to you before about my mother having been murdered the day before a hearing in Newcastle. I won't go into that other than to say that that in actual fact is certainly something I followed up many years ago, long before the pyramids and the rocks and all such things came into my understanding. They came into my hand. I had a task to do and I've completed that task. I would expect we are very close now to their final actions. I'm also of the opinion the 97 million people that I told you would be taken have already been taken. Yet we still see on our TV stations them pushing more vaccines, still trying to promote war, still polishing the heads of the people that have gone. That is what's happening here. They're still pushing these people as being really lovely people. Well, in reality, they are the worst of the worst, and they will be copping the most longest penalties. The Paracus skulls, as you see on the screen now, are a direct result of the penalty. The people that go into star X in our star array that I'll insert here for you, they are going to that planet that goes around star X, and they will live with dinosaurs. They will die and die 1,000 times a day, many times, being snatched back from their last breath. That is all explained, and without doubt it will not be wrong. It is explained in a video that I have called The End Part 3, as how we are shown on Earth that is exactly the outcome these people obtain. They're the worst of the worst, the 97 million. Their penalty is so long, and for many thousands of years, because of their behaviour. They unbeknown to many of us, the wholesale rape, murder, sacrifice of children, eating of their flesh and drinking of their blood is actually carried out by far more people than we believe. And like I said, a greater majority of the 800, well, greater majority of all the people going back will be those most in tune with that practice, and also the attempted nuclear holocausts that have been attempted over the last 3 years. I've gone through that. There is a whole series of videos showing you on the rocks how we are shown about these multiple attempts by the world leaders to kill as many of us as possible, so there were none of us to move on. And I also made note in my last video that the vaccines were a direct attempt to stop our ability, these fused first and second chromosomes being done many years ago to enable us to travel through space. We came and arrived in this galaxy, I would expect about 12 to 13 million years ago. This process of we've got and we live in, it's in actual fact a managed cycle. It's we'll learn all about this and get told the truth, but mostly, like I said, this video is mostly here for you today, for the people that are left on Earth, okay, the ones of us moving forward. Some of us are going to have family and friends and people we've trusted so long, not just the people on our TVs, okay, not just the movie stars and all such people that are disappearing here. You're going to have some people close to you. There's 1 in 4 in Australia going to be taken, and you're going to have friends, family close to you, so you've got to prepare for that. I have my lesson, like I said, on the way through, and I would expect if I hadn't got it I wouldn't have got to the end of the story, but here I am, and I've been given their help and protection without doubt to get to the point that I am. So we'll move on now and we'll discuss what I want to display and bring to your attention on the rock you've been looking at. This first image is the very same rock, like I said, and I've circled and written some words there and arrows so you can see exactly what part of the rock is displaying Prince Charles. That's who you're looking at. It's actually an image of Prince Charles on a rock. He's looking left. You can see his mouth and his nostril, his nose and his eye and forehead highlighted on the left side. On the right side you see his ear and shoulder. That is who you are looking at. It is Prince Charles. Now when we go to image 2, in image 2 we now see what is in the head and mind of Prince Charles. Okay, you see a nuclear blast, and you can see faces either side of the nuclear blast that have had their faces burnt off their skulls. That is what you are seeing in this portion. Now back to our first image that showed you the entirety of Prince Charles' face. I'm focusing now on the blue circled portion, okay? I'll show you a close-up of that so you can see it is in actual fact the very same portion of the rock. And as you can see, the little V shape there is where we're getting and obtaining the microscopic images that I'm about to show you. Okay, because what I found, and this is on his shoulder. Okay, so on the shoulder of Prince Charles, in other words, he's the one behind it. He's the one who is involved in these practices that we're about to see written on his shoulder. The first microscopic image we see is that very part of that rock, and I told you that the people that get this penalty, that resolve in looking like a Paracus skull, he's front and center. Right there is the very same thing that we are seeing in the Paracus skulls. It is exactly what Prince Charles' head will look like in about 16,000 years. I would expect a lot of his associates will look the very same. In the second image we see, once again it's in the very same place on the rock, exactly the same place. We see a kneeling white woman. We know it's a woman because if you look at her midriff or belly area, she has a partial smiling face of a child. That's how you know that she's carrying a child. You see a man offering her a bowl on a tray. That is what you're seeing here. It's really amazing to see this on a rock. It's actually awfully it's also very upsetting, because in the background behind the man offering the tray you see a pot with children being cooked in a pot. It's not the first rock I've seen it on either. I've seen it a few times, but this one just makes it a little clearer, and you see others, 2 or 3 other people gathering around the pot. They are cooking children. The even more upsetting is that the pot itself, when you move the light around, actually turns into the rear end of, or the hind quarters of a pig, which is implying that they have been substituting human babies' meat on our tables and dressing it up as pork, bacon, and so on. And this is on the shoulder of Prince Charles. So it means that he is behind this activity in our world. And I can tell you now, I'll tell you, at Coles in Australia, in Wingham, the very cheapest meat you can buy is English bacon. It's half the price of our locally produced bacon. Where is it coming from? The thought of their activity and this behaviour is beyond our imagination, because we cannot think like this. We do not understand why, and most of you won't believe this. But in reality, that is what is being told us on this rock. And he won't be wrong, unfortunately. Like I said, we're all going to have to get some very, very hard lessons. I've had some already, but there are people still to get lessons. Some of those are still close to me, but they will be given a lesson. And we all got to be strong enough to get through those lessons and move on. Now, having learnt what I've just told you about the rock and its contents and the substitution of human flesh for pork in our diets, along with the wholesale rape and murder and torture of children, sacrifice of the same, what would you do if you heard that on our national radios and TVs, and then had the likelihood of, oh, and by the way, there's another 779 million people here that are going to go backwards to other star systems, another 3 star systems they will be spread across? What would you do? Well, I'm a nice person. I'm certain there would be absolute pandemonium. We would kill as many of the last remaining possible, because they have, by their dishonesty and their lack of compassion for the children that have been killed in such a process, they may or may not have been involved. They may have been involved very early on. I've gone through that before, but what would you do? I would believe the rivers in our country here and across the world would run red with their blood. We would turn into those we loathe most. Therefore, I would expect all of them be taken at once, which is probably why, like I said, I had to get this last lesson as well. That is without doubt what I would think would happen. So I would expect all the remaining 779, if in fact the 97 million are already gone, the 779 million remaining will indeed be taken. In Australia, I have explained already in my videos, it is 1 in 4. In America, it is 1 in 5. In South America, it is 1 in 7. There are going to be places in Europe where I would expect it would be even a greater number of people taken. And that greater number of people would be in respect to ratio. It may be as high as 1 in 3 in some areas. And certainly there would be towns and cities where it may be almost the entire amount. Here, California would be an example. And there may be places in Australia very close to that sort of figure. An entire city almost emptied. Now, one thing I do want to mention is when they do get here, I have said to you before, I've had messages about lots of things. The one thing I can tell you is the 3 things that are going to take over when they get here is the power grid. I'm going to say for Australia, because I live in Australia, this is where I got the messages. Whether this is worldwide, I certainly would expect it to be the case. They will take over the power grid, they'll take over the media platforms, TV and radio. The word of everything that's on the contents of my YouTube channel here is here for a reason. It's here for the length of time that it has, because all of the actions of the leaders have been recorded based on what I've been putting up here, along with the vaccines that have been, like I said, produced to damage the fusing of the first and second chromosome and limit our ability to travel in space. That would be a fruitless exercise. The other thing that I would see them taking over outside of power and is our monetary system. Without doubt they will take over the monetary control and manage the situation, and I would expect far, far better than the ones that are here lining their own pockets with gold as such. We have a person called Klaus Schwab involved with the World Economic Forum. This is all going on because they're trying to build and leave at least mistrust. We have people that are former BBC people going around saying the Queen is a reptilian. There are many posts on social media from former CIA, former military people, everybody is a former something. And what they're doing is they're just pushing the whole lot of rot when the truth of why they come and how they come and why they come and respect Earth as well and the state of its play. In other words, high-speed movements that I've explained till this point. They know how to manage all these things, and that is what they're coming back to do. So what happens? They will come back and straighten the Earth's axis, but they will remove these people and tell us our truth first. That is what's going to happen. So they will take over all these things, so don't panic. They are good people. They are people like, some of them will look like you and me. And as I've explained, even this rock here does show you what a white man looks like with about another 13 million years of evolution. He's also on the rock right here. So what I want you to understand here is this has been going on for a long, long, long time. These issues that we've got with the cycle around sun do not just get rid of this problem of the behaviour of these people. One of the other problems we had in coming here was a depletion of many people, and it was the first and second chromosome issue, albeit it existed and it worked at the time between galaxies. It failed again. This process is also a process of fixing that problem for all of us, so that we have all the ability to traverse, and I'm not saying us now, I'm saying our ancestors. We've got almost about 150,000 years left before our star, this Earth as it is finished the solar cycle. Once it's finished, it will be a binary star system with all of us living back in the same type of environment, but I would expect we become of something, attached to far more. In other words, all the rest of the stars that we've populated. I see out of this push in this star array, about 240 binary star systems have already been moved out of it, having finished the full solar cycle. All these uncertainties no doubt will be answered when they get here. I just hope you all manage to get around what it is we've got lying ahead of us here. Okay, so we all need to be strong, we all need to stand up, we all need to front up, and we also need to carry on in a proper manner here. That's all from Brian Whitten and ETR. Have a lovely day. Bye.